Hello, everybody. Good morning, Bruno.
Good morning, everyone. How's it going?
It's great. We have Monica with us as well. Hello, Monica. Are you there?
Hey guys, how are you?
Hi. Today we're going to present Mala Gupta, and she's going to talk to the keeping pace with what is the new in Java 15. Come on, Mala.
Hi, Bruno. Thanks for having me. It's lovely to be here.
Okay. Well, today where Mala is going to present about Java 15. I'm going to share the screen. And Mala, the stage, it's all yours. It's up to you. Okay. We are
Thanks,
in this
Bruno.
backstage.
Yes. So, hi, everyone. Thanks for joining in for the session today. And today I'll be talking about the new and the modified language features in Java 15. What these features are, why you need them, and how you can use them in your applications. And I'll demonstrate that by live coding it, and I would not be using a lot of static slides. And just in case if you're trying to Google me to figure out what do I do apart from presenting at meetups like this, you can stop now. I work as a developer advocate with JetBrains, and what that essentially means is that I help developers like you to become more productive by helping you to use Intellij Idea in the best possible manner. I'm also a Java champion and author of multiple books, mainly on Java certifications, because I strongly believe that writing Java certifications can help you level up your Java skills. Uh, and apart from the industry recognition and leveling up your skills, you get a lot of benefits. And just in case if you have been kind of irritated by the number of exams, there were two exams you had to write earlier to become a certified Java programmer. This month, Oracle has introduced just one exam the way it used to be earlier, and you just have to write 50 questions to become certified Java programmers. So I would recommend that you take a look. So, before I get started, let's take a step back and talk a little bit about the Java's release cadence, how it has impacted how we developers get to know about the new features in Java. Java 8 was released in March 2014, and after around 3.5 years, Java 9 was released in September 2017. But the release cadence changed with Java 9, and now every September and March, you get a new version of Java. And that means we already have Java 15, which was released in September this year. How do you think this has impacted us? And do you think it's good or bad? I strongly believe that it's a good thing to have a shorter time difference between two releases of Java. The 6 months release cadence, I think, is good for both developers and for the people who are working on the features and the features themselves. Fewer number of features in a Java version lets you developers know these features better and figure out whether you want them in your applications and how to use them in your applications. It is good for the features because the features get the spotlight they deserve. Because if you remember when Java 9 was released, it had more than 100 features. The module system got all the spotlight, and a lot of other useful features like compact strings, they did not get the spotlight or the attention of developers, and they are a very good feature. So it's good for the language, it's good for developers, and it's good for the features. So that's a win-win situation for all of us. And I would really appreciate if you could write in the chat window what is the latest Java version that you have used. It could be the code in your production, or if you just had kind of played around with the recent version. And I'll talk about it at the end of the session. And regarding the questions, if you have any questions, please feel free to write the questions in the chat window. I usually take the questions at the end of the session because otherwise I just get caught up a lot in answering those questions. So let's get started with Java 15. how do you find out what's new in a Java version? So my two go-to resources are this link where you get a list of all the features which are included in a Java version. And of course, you can click on all these features, the list, to find out more details. Are you thinking I'm only talking about the features and there are no changes to the API? Yes, they are. And this is my go-to resource to find out how Java API has changed from one version to the other. So this link would give you a list of changes, how the API from 14 to 15 has changed. Let me see if clicking on this link would that open in the same okay, so this has actually opened in the other window that I had, the secondary screens. Okay, so this is what we get when we click on the previous link, and you can actually see that there are a lot of changes from, oh, so this is 14, 12 to 13. Probably, I'm so sorry, I probably did not change the link. So let's see if we have 13, 14, okay. It's live, so something has to go wrong, right? Okay, now, so we get to the API differences between Java 14 and 15. You can see a lot of changes, which is in green, additions and removals. And you can click on the links here on the packages that you want to kind of scroll through, and you might want to see how, let's say, record has changed. So there are a couple of additions and modifications and deletions. So this is how you can view how the API has changed. So let's close this window and go back to the presentation. Right. And now let's talk about, okay, so these are the new language features in Java 15, new and updated. So we have sealed classes and interfaces, which is a preview language feature. Records was introduced in Java 14 and it continues as a preview language feature. It's in the second preview in Java 15. Pattern matching, for instance, of again was introduced in the last version, which was 14, and it's in the second preview in Java 15. Text blocks, which is multi-line string, was introduced in Java 13, but now it has been made a standard language feature in Java 15. I just mentioned that a lot of features are introduced as preview language feature, or they are in second preview. And I will talk about what these features are during the end of, around the end of the session, so that we can dive right into the code and see some code in action. And I don't have a lot of talking in the session to get started with. Okay, so let me get started with the first feature that I want to cover in this session, which is the sealed classes and interfaces, which, as I said, is a preview language feature. So let me hop on to Intellij Idea. I'm using the latest version, which is 2020.3, still in the early access program. You can download it. And sorry, I missed including the link here. But you can download this version, and you can also use the ultimate version for free because, as I said, it's in the EAP. So let me hop on to my editor and let's see what we are talking about. Okay, so I just mentioned sealed classes and interfaces. The syntax is simple. I can seal classes or interfaces, and I can create secure hierarchies by controlling what other classes or interfaces can extend my classes or interfaces. So I'm talking about secure hierarchies, I'm talking about inheritance, I'm talking about sealing them. But why do you want to do so? What is the intent? Because only if you understand the intent would you be able to use them in your applications. So let's talk about a quick example. Let's say, imagine you have to go to another city, and we are talking about the modes of transport. Let's say if the mode of transport is an airplane, so you have a process to board an airplane. Perfect. Let's say if the mode of transport is a train, again, it has a different process to board the train and reach the destination. If the mode of transport is car, again, you have different process. So what if I ask you, let's say, how would the process look if you have, let's say, an unknown mode of transport? What would you respond? You would probably think that I'm insane, but that is the kind of decisions that we programmer have to take a lot of time in our code, because I would show you some code which says, if this is type of this, do this. If this, do this. But if it's an unknown type, you say X, Y, and Z, which is not something that we would like to do. So let me show that to you using code. So let me take you to this class. So this is a simple hierarchy which I have defined, where I have a public class which is plant, which is extended by three other classes, which is herb, no, yes, herb, shrub, and climber. And just to make the example in the code simpler, I have defined all the classes in the same source file. Of course, I understand when you're working with the real code, this is not how you would define your code, but just to make it simpler to understand, I have defined all the code in the same file. So we have three classes which extend plant, and then I have a class, let's say cucumber, which extends climber. Now let me go back to the example code which I mentioned. Okay, let me go back to my editor. This is the type of scenario which I mentioned to you. So this is a method which is process type, which takes in a parameter of type plant. I say if plant is an instance of cucumber, you have to execute a method and return the output. And similarly, I do that with the other types, which can be passed to this method. But what happens if I reach here? So this is the kind of decisions which I mentioned that as developers you would have to make. And depending on the type of decision, it could make your code behave in a manner which you don't expect or want. So let's see what we can do, because when I talk about secure hierarchies, so this is the kind of, let's say, the business domain that I want to model. I want my class plant to be extended by just four of these types. But at present, I don't have anything in the language which can allow me to do that. If I define class plant as final, that really means that no other class can extend it. Let's say if I don't define it as final, but I define all these classes in the same package, then I could restrict the classes from other packages to extend class plant. But then again, I'm trying to kind of blurring the line between accessibility and extensibility. Classes from other packages cannot access or extend plant. But again, I would not be able to define that I just want these four types to extend class plant. And okay, so let's go back to class plant and see what we can do about it. How can we define secure hierarchies? So I can say, I can use context actions in Intellij Idea. And whenever I use a shortcut, you would see a green box towards the bottom of the screen. Let me show that to you again. And that would show you the shortcuts that I would be using during my presentation. I would not be talking a lot about the shortcuts that I'm using. The shortcuts would flash and you can just kind of view what I'm using. Right. So let me say alt and enter. And so if there is one shortcut that you want to kind of take home with you about Intellij Idea from this session, that could be alt and enter. So that's one of very powerful shortcut. So I can say sealed class. And in this case, the sealed keyword, the sealed modifier is added to the declaration of class plant. And because all these classes are defined in the same source file, I don't really need the permits clause in this case, because that becomes implicit. But if all these classes were defined in separate source files, I would also need a permits clause. So let's define this. So I have a reserved keyword permits, which would list the classes that I can explicitly define my class plant to extend. And the subclasses, I could have 3 modifiers and I must have either of these. They could be non-sealed, which is that would allow class herb to be extended by any other class without having the name of the class in the declaration. I could have the class shrub as final, or I could have it as a sealed class. When I define a subclass as a sealed class, I would again have to go and define which of the classes can implement it or extend. No, this is not an interface, this is a class. So which of the classes can extend it? So let's say I say permits and I want cucumber to extend it. And again, what happens in this class? The class cucumber must be defined as either sealed, non-sealed, or final. So let me define that as final. So this is how you seal a class and add modifiers to the subclasses. And let me go back to my, yes. Now, this is what I mentioned, that this is what we have been doing. Now, probably, of course, since the if and else construct is placed that way, we would still need the else part. But pattern matching is, Oracle is working on extending pattern matching to this switch statements, switch expressions, and in a future version you would be able to write code like this. Of course, this will not work in the current version, but people at Oracle and other companies, they are working on it. And what happens in this case, when you pass a type to a type of class plant to this method, and depending on what type of that object is, you can execute methods and return their return type. And this, you could compare this with the exhaustive values that we have for enums, because when you define an enum, it, let me show if I have an enum. Yes. So this is an enum. So what happens with an enum? You have a predefined set of constants. So the values of an enum are exhaustive. So similarly, when we are talking about this case, here we are talking about the exhaustive types of objects that can be passed to plants. So this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to model our business domain better by using sealed classes and interfaces. So let me go back and show how you can work with an interface and how you can seal an interface. Again, I can say Alt and Enter, and I could use the sealed modifier, and I could say add the permits clause, and the interfaces that extend a sealed interface, they could either be non-sealed or they could be sealed. Again, if we talk about a sealed interface, then it has to define, it extends smooth, and I say it permits hierarchy, and the implementing class can be either of these 3. So let me make that final. So this is how you work with sealed classes and interfaces in Java 15, right? Now let me go back to my presentation. Okay, there's one quick setting that you must know about working with Java 15 in Intellij Idea. So you must have a copy of Java 15, which would be your JDK defined as project SDK here. And the project language level, you must select this level so that you can work with the features that I just mentioned. If you are working with command line, you would have to add a tag which lets you use the preview language features both during the compilation and during the runtime. But for IntelliJ IDEA, you can just choose the language level here, and it would take everything, do everything for you. Now let me go back and let's talk about records. So records introduce a compact form of defining your value objects or your data classes, which are essentially classes that just are a carrier of your data. But why would you need that? Let's understand that using an example. Imagine you go and visit a shop because you want to buy trousers. And when you get to the place, you see that all the trousers are of the same size. I know that's funny, but that's how it is. Probably an issue with the shop owner. So, depending on your size, the trousers could be big, they could be tight, or they could be small for you. And if you're lucky enough, they might fit you perfectly. And this is what we have been doing with the Java classes that we have been working ever since we had Java. We have been using, okay, I missed one point. What do you do if the trousers are big or tight or small for you? You alter them so that probably you could get them to the nearest to the perfect size that can make you wear them. And this is what we have been doing with the Java classes. We have been using the regular Java classes and altering them to suit us or the application that we're working with, to create a data class which is, as I said, a carrier of data. So let me hop on to my IDE and let's see what we have for the record. Okay, so let's talk about a method here. And let's say, so this is, I have a method which is write to file, and then I have another method which is read from file. So these are regular methods where I take an object and write it to a file and then read it. So let me go back and what am I going to do here? So let's say I don't have records and I have to use a regular class to store and retrieve details of a person, let's say name and age. So what can I do here? Let me create a new class. I say the name of my class is person. And the fields that I want to have in person is, as I said, string name, and I could say int age. And what do we do? Yes, that should be private because we must encapsulate our fields. What else do we do? I need a constructor so that I can initialize these values. Okay, so let me just move it. Oh my God. Yes. Now, what do? I can also insert the getters and setters. Let's say, okay, so this looks great as well. What else should I be doing? I also need to add the equals and the hash code method, because just in case if I'm trying to add this class, instances of this class, let's say to a collection class, I need equals and hash code so that if I add this instance as a key, I am able to retrieve it as well. Okay, so let me use my IDE to quickly insert these two methods as well. What else is missing? I think just one. So let me insert the toString method as well. This looks good. I could use my IDE to quickly generate a lot of code. But what happens is, to a developer who is reading this code, there is no way to tell the person that, look, this is just a carrier of data, and all the methods that I have down here, they are just doing mundane jobs, and which should be obvious, but because it is not, that is the problem. So because we know that you write code once, but it is read multiple times by other developers. So do we have a way to kind of make it more obvious and simpler for the person who's reading the code? Let me delete this and let me go back to the file, and then I say I want to create a class person but as a record and not as a regular class. Oh my god. So I'm so used to using the auto completion that when I was kind of typing in the name, I thought IntelliJ Idea would complete the name person for me. I know that's stupid, but that's what you get when you are used to using a lot of features. So I'm creating a record person, and I say string name, and I say int age. And this is exactly what I typed with the previous example where I inserted the getters and setters when I had a constructor, toString equals and hash code. Now, this is what you call a compact form to create a data class. Okay, so let's go back to the example and see how we can use this. So let me say that I instantiate this. I say person is equal to new person, and I say the name is Java, and I say the age is 25. Yes, do we all know Java is 25 this year? Yes. Now, let me write this to a file. I already have a text file. Okay, so first I have to pass this an object, and then the path is, I hope I'm typing it right, which is temp.txt. And then I say read from file, and I just pass that the name of the file that I want to read this from. Okay, so I complete the statement, and let's see what happens when I run this code. Yes, right. And did you notice that when you are, you can instantiate a record as a regular class? Oh my God, we have some error. So let me see what the error is. Okay, non-serializable. Okay. So let me go back to the record and let me say that it implements serializable. Perfect. Now let me go and let me rerun this class and let's see what happens. Yes, and as I mentioned, did you notice that a record could be instantiated like any other regular class? Okay, so did I not? Oh, so this has to be, I did not print this. Okay, so it has to be SOUT, and then I say, this is embarrassing. So let's see what happens now that I read in. Okay, so now I get the values. So I instantiated a record, and I have this instance written to this text file, and I was able to retrieve it from the text file. So this looks good. Now, as you can see, I already, so when IntelliJ Idea runs the code for you, it adds the tag enable preview when it compiles the code, which you will have to do if you are using the command line. Now, what else can I show you about records? And okay, we talked about a new type declaration. We talked about using records. Okay, adding fields. Now, if I go back to my person, so I cannot add any field to record person because the state of record person is defined using the components here. But what happens if I say, let's say, string address? This is not allowed. It says the instance field is not allowed in a record. And this is a compilation error, and for the right reasons. We are using record and we are using a compact form to define what it does. And then if we go into the class and we add more fields, then we are again making it obscure. We are not limiting it to defining the state using the components or the signature. Now, can you use static fields? Yes, you can. But of course, as you are using it to define your data classes or the value objects, do that only if you think that is really required. Let's say I could say static int counter. So this is allowed. I could also say static int get counter, and yes, and I could return counter from this method. So static methods are allowed. I could also define instance method. I could say, let's say int, or I could say string get name in uppercase, and I could say return name dot to uppercase. I can define an instance method, but instance variables or field is not allowed to be defined in a record. What else can I do? Of course, I can insert a constructor, and I have the options of inserting compact, canonical, or a custom constructor. Let me insert a compact constructor. And what do I want to do here? Let's say I say if age is greater than or less than, say, 0, I say it's an exception because show new illegal argument exception, I say age is less than 0. So I can also insert a constructor here. What else can we do with it? Okay, let me go back to my right. So we've already talked about modifying the default constructor behavior. Oh, yes, I can also create generic records. We also already talked about serializing the records. And before I do that, let me go back to my record. And this is a new inspection which we added in Java 15. And I just wanted to show you one thing as well. So when I go to the decompiled version of this class person, so this is the decompiled version, and you can see this is what we uh, wrote. And if I go to yes. Now, can I say view bytecodes? Okay, show bytecode. Now, this is what you get to see when you view the bytecodes of the class person. And here you can see the hash code methods were generated. You also have the equals method, and you have the setters, and the fields are final for a record. So you only have the setters and not sorry, you only have the getters and not the setters. So you can view the bytecode to find out what exactly was generated for this. Now, starting in Intellij Idea 2020.3, you can also use another inspection, which is convert record to a class, which lets you uh, convert a record to a class, and which you might need. Let's say when you no longer want to use a Java version which supports record. Let's say you are playing around with records in your production code, but of course you would like to go back to let's say JDK 11 or a previous version where you did not have records. So in this case, you can convert uh, record to a person by just using this inspection, and you get all the code here. Now, let me go back and see what else we need to talk about. So presentation records. Okay. Oh, yes. I'm talking about creating a generic record and how you can do that. So let me quickly, yes. So I can say alt in home and alt in insert to create a new class. Let me define this as parcel and let me make it as record. And this is how I define the type parameters. And the components would be, let's say, t contains, and you have double weight and right. So let me create a class table here, just a bare bone class, and I would use it to instantiate my parcel class, parcel record, which is also has generic parameters. Now, so let me have a main method here, and I say parcel, and I have the parameters as this, and then I say parcel is equal to new parcel, and I say this is new table, and the weight could be, let's say, anything out there. So this is how I can also create generic records, and I could also add annotations to the components. Let's say I don't want this to be null. So I can add annotations to this as well. All of this was already available in Java 14 and records. With Java 15, you can also create. Do I have any example here? I think I had. Okay, so this is here. Using Java 15, you can also have local records. And why would you want to do that? For the same reasons why you would use inner classes, static classes to encapsulate your logic, your data inside a method. And Java 15 has also made changes to creation of an interface locally within, of course, in a method. And you can also define a local enum. These are the changes which were added to Java 15 and records. Now, let me go to pattern matching for instance of. This is again one of my favorites. I'm not saying records or the sealed classes are not my favorite, but this is what should I say? A change which looks or appears very small, but you really have to understand how powerful it is when you make it work with the other code. So let's see what it is and how you can use it in your application. So let me go back to my IDE and see if we have some code out here. Yes, we do. Okay, so this is getting started. So let's first talk about what pattern matching for instance of is. So let's talk about the old way of doing things. Okay, so pattern matching for instance of adds pattern matching to the operator instance of. I know it's kind of reiterating what the feature is about. So let's get down to some work and see how it works. Okay, so in this method, I'm trying to output a value in uppercase for an object which is passed to it. So this is how I would do that usually. I would say if object is instance of, let's say, the type string, then what do I want to do? I would create a new variable and I would cast the the method parameter, which is object. And then I say, let's just output this value. I say new var dot to uppercase. And so this looks simple. I can also say else. I can say, so this is not a string value, not a string value. Right. Now, what is happening here? And comparing if object is an instance of string, what would you want to do if you are comparing object to a string? You would like to cast it. Doesn't that feels quite implicit that this is exactly what you would like to do? But until now, we developers were kind of forced to do that because there was no provision in the language to help us get rid of it. But now we do. Now let me go to new. If you see new var is highlighted with a yellow background, this essentially means that IntelliJ IDEA has some suggestions for your code, and to view the suggestions, you can use Alt and Enter. So it says I can replace new var with pattern variable. So let me change that. And now, can you see the difference? I don't really have to define a new variable on the next line, and I don't have to cast it to the type string. And this is what adding pattern matching for instance of to the instance of operator. Are you kind of thinking, oh my God, that looks so simple? No, it is not. Let me show you some other example where I would be using it in combination with the other constructs of the Java language. And then you would realize how important it could be in your everyday coding. The key here is that all these features that I'm talking about today, they would simplify how you write your code every day. That is the key here. So let me, so I already have a casting here, and this is a typical, I would say, the equals method, which a lot of developers like us write. So let's see how we can simplify it here. So let me go and replace this with a pattern variable, which is essentially using pattern matching for instance of. And once I do that, I could also, so I have an if statement here and I have an if statement here. So I could also merge these if statements. I can say Alt and Enter again, and then I could say merge nested ifs. And this is, okay, I have another suggestion because this is again in the yellow background. Let me say, it says I can simplify if else, because did you notice it says if some condition return true, otherwise return false, and I could actually say just return what the value of the condition is, because that would be either true or false. So I don't have to say if true, else return false. I know that's implicit, but it really is not a lot of times. So I can say alternator and I can say simplify if else. So this is how you can simplify your statements and code. If you're still not convinced, let me show you another example. And I think you would really like that one because that's also one of my favorites. So let me go to the class prod project and let me show you this method here. So I'm talking about this method. So let's see what we can do. First of all, I have an instance of which is followed by the creation of a variable, and then we talk about the casting. So I could say alternator and I could say replace child nodes with pattern variable, and this is great. Now I see two if statements, right, one after the other. I can say I want to merge these statements. Then I can say Control Alt N and I can inline the variable node. Now, what else can I do? I can again replace this with a pattern variable. Again, I have a nested if statements and I could merge these again. Now, can you see the difference between what we had initially and what we have now? And um, the beauty is that the code is still readable and it's concise. So we are attaining both the objectives. We're making the code concise, but we're letting it to be simple. I hope you are convinced about using pattern matching for instance of now, aren't you? Type yes in the chat window if you are. Great. Now let me go back to my project window. Okay. Okay, so again, this, oh my God, I am saying that this is one of my favorite features, but the truth is, all the new features which are being added in Java, they are my favorite feature. I'm so sorry, but I can't really help it. So let's see what text blocks are, why you need them, and how you can use them in your applications. So text blocks are really the multi-line strings, and they help you to create multi-line string values without the pain of using the concatenation operator or the escape sequences, which really makes it difficult for us developers to read or write that code. So let me go to my editor and see if I have something for text blocks. Oh no, I really don't. That is okay. So let's talk about a string val. Um, let's call it text. And then I say, okay, so now I would start with a simple single line string value, and then I would add more text to it and let you see if that is getting easier to read or it's getting difficult to read. Okay, so let's compare that with a little child. What happens when a child is born? Oh my God, the child is so cute. But what happens later when the child becomes a toddler or a teen? Don't talk to me about the teens. I have a preteen, my younger daughter, and oh my God, she is so cool. Right. And the elder one is a teen. Okay, so I am a little kid. Oh my God, the spelling mistakes. Little kid. Okay, so this looks cute. Now it's getting bigger. I can crawl now. That's even cool. I am. I want to learn a new language. That sounds kind of cool again. Now the string is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Okay, so let's see how if we have some text in other language. Oh, yes, we do. So let me just copy this piece here and let's say, oh no, what am I doing? Oh, that doesn't look so nice. But still, yes. Now I have a lot of code which is in other language, which has which spans multiple lines. Let me move this to the next line. Boy, it doesn't look so readable because I need to use the escape sequence, which is this, to escape the single, sorry, the double quote, which is part of the JSON value. Now, this doesn't look so readable. What can I do now to write code which is readable? I hope this works well. Sometimes it doesn't, right? And yes, it does. Now, what did I do? I just copy pasted some text, which is this, to my multi-line string value. And you can start and end a multi-line string value, which is a text block using 3 double quotes. And the value should start on the next line because if I delete the new line, it is a compilation error. What about the incidental white spaces? Do you think this is a part of the value JSON or it is not? So to show that, if you can see the green vertical line, which is, let me show that to you. So this is the green vertical line that you can see, which will actually show what is included in this string value. And just for your information, this is still the old string that Java had ever since it was created, it was provided to us because the heavy lifting is done by the compiler. So you get all the benefits or all the convenience of doing things which you already wanted to do, but the compiler would do the heavy lifting and it would convert all the values to the regular string. So this is how you get to know what is included as part of the string value. And so this is one of the uh, This is how you can alter what white spaces are included. You can also move the closing brace, not the closing brace, the closing quotes to the left to move this vertical line and change what is included in the string value. And because it is still a string, you can use all the string methods which are part of the API, the string API. So you get the benefits of working with multi-line string values. You don't really have to worry about using the escape sequences. The value is much more readable now. Now, let me go back to, and where would you use that? Of course, you could use that to write multi-line string values. You could also use to insert the SQL queries, JSON values, HTML value, or any other value that would span multiple values and they would include a lot of other characters. So now let me go back to my, okay, so switch expressions. Are we? No, switch expressions was a standard feature in Java 13. Okay, so we have to skip that because we're also running out of time. Yes, I mentioned that the preview, a lot of features that I just mentioned, apart from text blocks, all the other have been introduced as a preview language feature. Text blocks is in the second preview in Java 15, and same with pattern matching, for instance, of what do you mean by a preview language feature? So, with the new release cadence, which is 6 months for Java now, the features, the new language features which are released in the language, they are released as a preview language feature because it gives time to Oracle to finalize whether they want to include the feature in the language or not. And that depends on you developers, how you submit your feedback to Oracle, and of course, by the other internal testing which is done. And why do you think that is important? Because unlike an API, a language feature can never be deprecated. You would have to live with the a language feature which is imperfect if it is added to the language, because it would also interact and work with the other language features in the Java. So, if you have any feedback on any of the language features that I covered today, or if you try them out anytime else in the future, please make a point to submit your feedback because Oracle is listening to the feedback. Switch expressions was introduced as a preview language feature in Java 12 for the first time. And depending on the feedback which was received on it, one of the keywords which was used, break, the switch expressions initially used break to return value from one of the branches, but now it after the feedback which was received from the developers, it was later changed to yield, yield, because the developers mentioned that they are confused a lot about using the break in that case. So this is Brian, who leads the project Amber at Oracle, and he tweeted. So this is an old tweet, but it is still relevant. So he tweeted that he is looking for feedback on the latest on the preview language features. So I asked him, so is there a deadline or submitting the feedback? He said there is no hard deadline, but the train is rolling. So please feel free to submit your feedback. Again, I pinged him again for asking about the deadline, and he said the earlier, the better. And all the code snippets and everything that I covered is also included in two of these articles and screencast. And I would be sharing the presentation with the organizers of the meetup, and you can have both the links here. So I was not able to cover everything which is included in this new features or the features of Intellij Idea, but these two links have comprehensive coverage of what I was talking about today. So thank you so much, and I am open for questions now.
Thanks, Mala.
Oh, I have, okay. Yes.
Okay, thanks, Mala, for your presentation. It's amazing. There was something that I didn't really know in about the Java 15, such as seal and unseal interface. That's really, really cool. I like it. Well, I have a couple of questions that I'm going to put in the on the screen for you, and after we're gonna have full draw some two license. I think it's two license, right, Bruno? Of
Just one line of JetBrains, run.
okay, and two tickets for cloud conference today, right? Okay, let's go to the first question that I have over here for Chumala. It's from Nasarda from New Jersey. It's essential for library users to learn non-long-term release versions of Java. I love learning new features, but I want to answer it for my team.
Uh, so that's an interesting question, and I would say it is essential specifically for library users, creators. Because if I'm talking about the creators, yes, they should be knowing about the new features of Java because a lot of developers they try out new language versions, and it is essential for at least the creators to know about them. As a person who has been keeping a tab on what's new coming in the language features, I think it's always good to know about the new language features because I talked about it when I started with my presentation. What are the benefits of having a 6 months release cadence? Because as developers, you get to know about the Java features and not a lot of it. So you understand what the features are, would you need them in your applications, and how you can use them in your applications. So I would say, yes, it is good to know about the new language features and not wait for the long term support releases because they really are talking about how a release would be supported. Because when we are talking about the LTS release, we're not talking everything would be kind of final in that release. It would not have any preview language features or the experimental features. That's just another release with a different kind of support by Oracle or by other companies.
Nice, thank you.
I'm sorry. I have some connections problem. Okay, next question. Chris, can you put please the next question for Mala? After, okay, Junior. Okay. I heard that there were a few changes in the reflection API as well to add support for Scylla class. Is that true?
Amit, that is an interesting question, but I did not explore that part. I would request you to go to the link which I mentioned, which was about the changes in the Java API from 14 to 15, and you can actually go and check if there have been any changes there in the public API. I did not play around with that part.
Okay.
Chris, please, we have a question of Junior before Maximilian Ruda.
Oh yeah.
Could you share with us?
This one, right?
Yes.
Yes, this question.
Okay.
Thank you.
Which
Yes.
is your advice in Java about frameworks? Which frameworks would you advise to study?
That's an interesting question, which I get to kind of answer a lot of time. I would like to ask. Let me ask a question to the person who was asking the question. So, what let's say mode of transport would you like to use? That really depends on where you want to go and what route you want to take. So, depending on what you want to do you want to develop, let's say, a web application? Do you want to work with desktop applications? Do you want to work with IoT or other things? Depending on what you want to do, you have to decide the frameworks that you want to use. Because if I talk about, let's say, web applications or serverless applications, I can either go to Spring, I can go to a Micronaut, I can go to Microprofile. We have Jakarta EE, which is getting in real good shape now. So I have a lot of options to work with. So you really have to figure out what is it that you want to do.
Okay. What is the best strategy to deal with so many JDK's version on the same machine? How do you deal with that?
strategy to deal with so many JDKs on the same machine. If you're trying to ask if you have installed multiple JDK versions on your system, then SDK Man is the application that you might want to explore to manage that part.
Oh, that's great. There's more couple questions. And another one for the NSARDA. Are you still the class alternative to final class?
I would say no, because as I mentioned, when you talk about final classes, you are putting a stop to any other class which can extend your class. But when I talk about seed class, you are controlling which other classes can extend your class. So those are different concepts altogether, I would say.
Oh, that's great. Another question from Amit Kumar. There's another from Sarda. Okay, can records replace hibernate entity objects in the new feature?
That's, I would say, again, a good question, because that combination is not working at present. So probably that's the question Brian gets should be answering. I don't know if they are working in that direction or not. So that's for the language owners or the stewards to decide on.
Okay. Okay, I heard that there were a few changes in the reflection API as well to add support for seal crest. Is that true? I think that we sent this question already. No?
Yes,
Yeah.
we just answered this one.
Okay. There's one thing. Chris, can you put the message for from Bruno Souza, please, on the screen? Yeah, there's Java man sends a message for you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think
He's
that's
such an amazing person.
yeah. It is
Hi, Bruno. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's my pleasure and honor to be here. Thank you so much.
Okay. We have another question from Ivan. Oh, this one, Bilal Balay. I'm currently studying for OCP 11. When do you think the OCP 15 will be introduced?
Bilal, I think OCP 15 would never be introduced, because 11 was the last long-term support release that we had from for Java. And Java certifications, they are not released for every new Java version. I assume they would be released for the LTS version. So this is just an assumption. I have no words from Oracle that the next certification for Java would be for Java 17. But as I said, I'm unsure. And there's some good news for you, because this month, Oracle has completely changed their certification exam. So now you don't have to write 2 exams to get certified. You just have to write 1 exam. And instead of writing 90 questions for each of those exams, now you just have to write 50 questions, which I think is great.
We have Paulo send us a message as well for you. Thanks, Mala. Moved by Paulo Simões from Oracle. Celebrated 25 years in preparing next 25 years in the top. That's cool.
Thank you.
Paulo.
Thank you so much, Paolo. Thank you so much.
Ivan sent us a question as well. Let me grab the question over here. I'd like to ask her. And Monica. No, this one. I'd like to ask her which are the new features she used more since OpenJDK 10, and which are the ones she doesn't use as often. That's cool.
Thanks, Ivan. Thanks for the question. And since I'm following the project Amber a lot than the other projects, which is Project Panama and a lot of other new projects which are going on at Oracle, so I would say, used all the new language features which has been released with Java 10. So we had var in Java 10, we had lambda parameters, type inference with lambda parameters in Java 11, switch expressions in this. Oh my God, they are all on the tips of my fingers. So I have used all the new language features which have come out since 10.
Great. There's another question over here. The Surav Roy. How does sealed class differ differ from using access modifiers in Java. This one.
Right. So seed classes, they talk about both. They talk about accessibility and they talk about extensibility. Or am I saying it wrong? Seed classes, they decouple accessibility from extensibility, because when you talk about the access modifiers, you only talk about which other classes can access your class. So you talk about accessing the classes within the same package, the other package, what members could be accessed from the classes that extend your classes within the same package and the other package. But when we talk about sealed classes, I am decoupling accessibility from extensibility. I can make my class accessible to the other class in a different package, but I can still control whether that would be able to extend the class or not. So I'm decoupling these two concepts. So that's what the difference is.
There's some more questions. Let me see. Over here. Actually, thanks everybody. We're going to raffle to draw some tickets right now. License, JetBrains license that we received here in Sojava, and the Cloud Conference day tickets. We have this month a Cloud Conference tickets. And who's going to start? Monica or Bruno?
Well, I could be started, right?
Me? Sorry, I didn't understand. I can go ahead?
Thanks first.
Okay. Well, are you...
Okay.
Do you see my screen? Okay. So first we are going to draw 2 tickets to Cloud Conference Day. And just remembering, this event is going to be on October 17. And we have nice 4 tracks about dev track. We have also inter track. We have infra track and also open track. So let's see who are going to win the tickets. So we have here all the names of the people that subscribe to this talk today. And we are going to draw 2 names. So let's see.
Monica, can you, yeah, okay. Tarcísio Coutinho.
Tarcísio Coutinho and Deepak. I don't know how to say, sorry, your last name.
That's Lal Chandani.
Oh, nice.
How that's going to work? We're going to send the email for both. That's how that's going to work, Bruno. You have the email, right?
No, you don't have an email. You send the messenger in meetup.com, and next you'll get the email and send the license into tickets for Cloud Conference Day, right?
Okay.
Okay. And next I will draw a license of JetBrains. This is my favorite ID. Okay. I use every day. I love JetBrains, right? So okay. Oh, Mala, I need your help. Vidra said ready. Akili.
I'm sorry, I didn't get you. You'll have to repeat.
Sorry.
You are sharing
you're sharing your Excel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. This is my Mac. Okay. Did you see it right now?
Yes, you do.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. That's it. Either Sena VD Akili, right? You get a new license of JetBrains.
Okay.
Nice.
Okay, I would like to. It's sad, but we need to finish, right? That was amazing presentation, Mala. Thanks for your time. I know that you're a very, very busy person, but all the community in Brazil and around the world, because we have some people from New Jersey, we have some people from India, from Brazil, everywhere. So everybody is very happy because we bring some news for us. And we save time to read some books as well, but it's good to get in detail as well. I hope that you can write some book, to Java 15 book. I have yours, another books that you wrote. But I really love it. That's an amazing presentation. I would like to say thanks for Chris, for the help, for the rede, because we are using all the string art from the rede and Papo Decisa de Mim. Papo Decisa de Mim is another community over here in Brazil, from DevOps guys and something like that. And Monica, that's a second live with us. We're enjoying a lot. And Mala, your presentation was best ever. Thank you a lot.
Thank you so much, Rohan, for having me. It was amazing. It was a pleasure to be here. And thank you so much for your kind words. And I would like to thank everyone who joined in the session today and asked all the questions. Hi, Cristiano.
This is Chris. Chris is that support all the string art for us with the Papo Decisa de Mim and the rede. Okay.
Great.
Thank you. And that's it. Bye, people, and thank you everybody for the participation in the Saturday.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you so